Hello, we are here today at the European Parliament in Brussels, where 100 policymakers from all government levels from all around Europe have gathered to discuss what cities are doing to implement the European Pillar of Social Rights. Among other things, 21 big European cities are presenting today their pledges to implement some of the principles of the social pillar. We are not talking about just nice commitments, we are talking about concrete measures with concrete budgets to deliver social rights for all citizens. But let me please introduce our guests today. We have here today João Rodrigues. She's member of the European Parliament, Vice President of the Socialist Group, and she was the rapporteur of the European Pillar of Social Rights here in the European Parliament. We are also here today with Andreas Schönström, Vice Mayor of Malmo, and he's also chair of EUROCITIES Social Affairs Forum.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we have here today also Katarina Ivanković. She is Director for Social Affairs at the European Commission.
Hello.
And last but not least, Laia Ortiz. She is Deputy Mayor of Barcelona for Social Rights.
Yeah, hello.
Thanks all for being here. Let me start with you, Maria. I would like to ask a very introductory question about the European Pillar of Social Rights. Can you explain us briefly what it is exactly and what is the importance of the social pillar?
Well, the social pillar is something we launched here together in the European Parliament, European Commission, Council, but also with the big, strong backing from the civil society, social partners, to say, well, we need to change the situation in Europe because there are so many problems accumulated over the financial crisis and so on. So let's come with a big initiative to make sure that everybody, children, young people, women and men in the working life, family life, senior people, disabled people, all of them, they have updated social rights. And we have done this, we have updated, we have enshrined these rights in the important declaration launched in Gothenburg. And now we are translating this in very concrete measures. European law to improve working conditions, to improve work-life balance, making sure that we have more financial means to support a youth guarantee, a child guarantee, making sure that everybody has access to proper skills, and adapting these to each country and to each region and to each city. Mm-hmm. That's why now this conference is so important also.
Talking about cities, Katarina, why is so important the support at local level when talking about the European Pillar of Social Rights?
Well, just as Maria says, European Pillar of Social Rights is our, I would say, a common good, actually, because it was, we all know we had various different initiatives in the past, and the social policy, employment policy, inclusion policy were fragmented in different pieces, either of legislation or strategies or whatsoever. And now with the pillar, I would say that everything came back together. I think that's the biggest value of the pillar. So we have all the aspects of life, of working life, or private life, or work-life balance, of everything putting in one perspective. Why is it so important? The pillar is a result of the large consensus. Everybody agreed on the principles of pillar. What is sometimes and what is quite often forgotten is that the responsibility on the implementation of the pillar is not only at the level of the European Commission or the Council or the Parliament. It lies under national governments and even more on the local and regional level. And here we come to the either if we will succeed or fail with the implementation of pillar is only if everybody takes the responsibility that they have at their own level. When it comes to the local level, when it comes to the cities, you are the first dealing with the citizens. You are the first who are in contact. You are the first when it comes to the proper healthcare, proper childcare, proper education, decent living, securing the minimum conditions for all of your citizens. And here, in this respect, we also see the huge role and huge potential of the cities, of the municipalities in implementing the pillar of social rights. What would we like to see in future is that the member states also take a bit more ownership of the pillar. Maybe the future will show that we need to go into some kind of coordination of the implementation of pillar or some other initiatives, but it is definitely has to be done jointly without discriminating anybody from the EU national and local level.
Mm-hmm. Andreas, please, can you tell us more of what's happening today in the European Parliament? What is this new initiative that EUROCITIES is promoting?
Well, as the former speaker said, this is about implementing the social pillar in the real life for everyday citizens around the European Union. And we brought a pledge from 21 cities all around Europe, representing 20 million European citizens, showing how the cities will now go on and implementing the social pillar, making a pledge of investing about 4.3 billion euros into social welfare and building about 75,000 new houses in our cities. And I think this has been a very good way to show how we can make the social pillar become a reality.
Laia, Barcelona, your city, is one of the cities that has signed this pledge, as I said at the beginning, with concrete objectives, with concrete budget. In the case of Barcelona, it's 182 million, if well understood. And one of your priorities is housing, right? Can you tell us, please, why is so important housing in Barcelona?
Housing is really important, first because we don't have a public housing park in our city. Less than 2% are social housing in Barcelona. That means that we really have a problem with that, because most of the people spend a lot of their budget just to pay the rents. And it means that 80% of the poverty in the city is related to non-affordable housing. So you can imagine that how important is housing policies and to invest in housing, and also to protect the social aim of housing. But I should say that it's not only Barcelona's problem. What we know is that most of the European cities has in housing their priorities. I mean, 9 out of 21 pledges of the European cities, the commitment with the European social pillar has to do with affordable housing and homelessness. That it means that is an increasing problem, and for all the cities is really a priority. So we are investing in housing, of course, also fighting homelessness, because another problem that is increasing all over Europe. And I think that our commitment is increasing more than 2,000 billion in the cities invested in housing policy. So it's not only in Barcelona, but we really have one of the biggest problem is housing, definitely.
And in this sense, in order to fight against this problem, what can the EU do to support cities like Barcelona and others fighting against this problem?
I think, for example, that we need two basic things that Europe can do. One is financial support. We need directly finance these investments in housing and rehabilitation also, because I think that now we have to consider housing as the priority infrastructure that we need in Europe. And the second one, we need laws to protect. I mean, it cannot keep on being a speculation good. I mean, we need to protect the social aim of housing, and we need directive and also economic policy that protect housing. So everything is interconnected. We cannot say that housing is something for the cities or for the states. I think that Europe is responsible to protect, and also in the European semester, in all these policies, everything has to do also with social policy. So they can do from different aspects. They can do a lot for us.
Katarina, what is your opinion on this? Because we are talking about what can be done from the institutions.
Actually, a lot can be done, and a lot is being done. Although I would say it's still in quite initial stage. We all know that social housing or housing was not in the agenda of the EU funds in the present financing perspective. So it was not part of the ERDF, the regional fund, or the ESF. As ESF, it couldn't be anyhow. But what we are doing now, we are finally opening the social infrastructure and social housing in particular window in the regional fund in also InvestEU, and my directorate is concretely preparing the product, so-called product for InvestEU that will be targeting the social housing and also combating the homelessness in general. We see many good examples around the different member states. Some are more successful, some are less successful, some don't pay attention at all, although the problem exists, so this is also another challenge. But with ERDF, with InvestEU, with strong support from DSF Plus when it comes to the supporting activities, we saw that, for example, fight against homelessness really won't be successful if we don't have accompanying measures, so to say. If we cannot, and no city can afford just to provide additional facilities because, of course, of the funds concerned, but if we don't have something that follows the inclusion of homeless people in the society, then we will also have additional problems. So with this, in this respect, I think we could have, and we are having finally the possibility of do more, of do concrete. It is also important now in the process of the European semester. You know that now it's for the second time already that European Pillar of Social Rights is embedded in the European semester process. This year even more important, because this year we are developing, the Commission is developing such a famous Annex D, which is actually the starting point for the negotiations of future activities that are going to be financed in the member states. In several member states, housing has been identified as a problem and as an obstacle that needs to be addressed. So now it is up to us to see how seriously we will be there in actually touching and targeting the problem to where it really is. And it's indeed in those areas that deal mostly with the people, either homeless people or socially excluded or different groups. We also need to open the discussion on what we consider as the affordable housing. Is it affordable housing per se? Is it affordable social housing? So in this respect, there are also different initiatives going around. Some support just an affordable housing to have the access for maybe groups that cannot afford it as general, like young people, single mothers, etc., etc. But still, and as Laia just said, we really have a huge cohort of people who need support in the terms of social housing.
Maria, many times has been said that the social pillar is not just a nice declaration of principles. So when talking about EU funding, is there anything foreseen in this sense, or how can the EU support cities to implement the principles of the pillar?
Well, we are right now discussing the toolbox of financial instruments for the next years. And it's very important to align all these instruments according to the objectives of the social pillar. The first thing is the Social Fund Plus, because I think this is really important that we are saying, well, these social rights should be respected everywhere, and when member states they don't have all the means to guarantee these, there is an extra support which can come from the European side. This is very important to show that, yes, there is a European Union to protect people and to make sure that the social pillar will be respected. But you have the same adaptation, making something different on the European Investment Plan. You just referred to this. You have something happening to the Globalization Fund, which will now be called Transition Fund, probably. Let's see. This is at least the Parliament proposal.
Still under discussion.
Still under discussion. Because we would like to also to support citizens in the transition to a low-carbon economy. We think that we need to have a fair transition. Yes, we do need to go to a different way to use energy, but we need to make it with social fairness. So this means that somehow tax policy must be adapted, and this fund should be there to help those more in need, adapting their houses and their equipments to use energy.
Andreas, you come from Malmo, a city which has used the European Social Fund Maria was referring to. What has to change at EU level in order to allow more cities to access this kind of funding?
I think, first of all, and I know that it's hard to achieve, but our aim and our suggestion is that more of the funds should be able for the city to achieve funds from directly instead of going by the national governments. But I also think it's very important that we use the funds not only like a vertical way, or we need to use it and see that it's complementing each other. It's a puzzle that has to be together, because you have funds for regional projects about mobility infrastructure. That's very important for a functioning labor market. It's very important to build affordable houses in new areas, in a new way. If you move there, you need to have an infrastructure who takes you to the job later the same day, and so on. So we need the funds to be integrated with one other, and we need the cities to be able to get funds directly and not wait for what the government of that specific country says. Because as Katarina earlier said, we as a cities, we know we are in the same everyday life as our citizens. We see the problems directly. We see the effects of different policy changes and so on. And we need the tools to act on that, and act on that immediately. And it's time, if I may say so, it's time that the European Union now concentrate on those who want to be within the European Union, and concentrate on those countries and those cities and those citizens who want to be a member here, and make the focus on the social pillar instead of acting on those who doesn't want to be members anymore. So we need to change our focus and be strong on what we were trying to achieve, and strong on closing the gaps between North and South, West and East within the European Union. And the cities are one of many tools that are very, very easy to use to get an immediate effect on everyday life for our citizens.
Cohesion. We talk a lot about cohesion these days in the institutions. So we are arriving to the end of this conversation. A final question for all. I know it's a difficult one, but I will ask you a telegraphic answer if possible. What would be your top priority for the next 5 years when referring to social Europe and the social pillar? Laia, I can start with you.
My top priority is investing in housing, but one thing is that the economic policy has to be social policy orientated. I mean, without a tax policy and redistribution, the first problem in the European Union will be the increasing inequality. So I think this is definitely the priority.
Perfect. So short, Katarina. Let's see what you can do.
Well, I'll be even shorter. I think my priority is to keep the pillar alive and to keep the social agenda even higher on the picture, and even higher on the list of the priorities of the next Commission and the whole Europe in general, because only by putting the social agenda extremely high on the picture we will be able to succeed and to change our societies.
Andreas?
Tear down barriers, barriers between our citizens, migrants, integrating migrants to our society, education, bring up new generations that can be a part of the society on equal terms, but also bring down barriers between the European countries, as we can see today just between Sweden and Denmark, that's affecting our citizens' life as a city on the border between Sweden and Denmark. So there's too much barriers, and we have to tear them down.
Okay, Maria?
Well, my wish in a few words is better jobs for those who are looking for jobs, and access to social protection for all.
Perfect. We have a
short as
we have different answers to fight against the same problem. So thank you all for being here. It has been a pleasure. I wish you good luck implementing the pillars, the principles of the European Pillar of Social Rights as you are doing. And thanks as well for your commitment. Bye-bye.
Thank you.